Hey everyone, welcome back. This is the second video lecture for week 1 in business organizations, chapter 26. Chapter 26 has a lot more information in it than you are going to need for this week. So we are going to be focusing purely on what is an entrepreneur and sole proprietorship. A person who wants to start a business must decide whether or not the business should operate as a sole proprietorship, a general partnership, a limited partnership, a limited liability partnership, a limited liability company, a corporation, or any other available legal business form. Really, the selection on how to run a business depends on a lot of factors, including how easy is it to form this kind of business? Is there cost involved? What about capital requirements? Do I have to have a large sum of money saved up? Do I have to have investors? How flexible are the management decisions? What kind of government restrictions are there? Liability. Am I personally liable? There are tax considerations and a whole host of things. So we're going to be focusing on the sole proprietorship, the advantages and the disadvantages of that. But first, you need to know what an entrepreneur is. And I'm sure that you've heard the word. I'm sure that you probably even know what it is. But an entrepreneur is a person who forms and operates a business. So, for instance, if you are in the Animal Companion program and you decide you want to start your own business by yourself, you would be considered an entrepreneur. Most businesses are started by entrepreneurs, and although they may be small, they can grow into substantial organizations. Every day, entrepreneurs in this country and elsewhere around the world are creating new businesses that hire employees, provide new products and services, and contribute to the growth of the economies of the countries. So I think this is kind of exciting. If you take a look at this pie chart, you notice that the majority of all businesses are actually sole proprietorships. It is the most widely used form of business entity. It's also the simplest form. There's only one owner of a business, and they are called the sole proprietor. You'll see in this previous slide, we have this gentleman here who's selling lemonade, cookies, some likes and some friendships. He's running his own business, and he can name it whatever he wants. But seriously, it's pretty cool to know that the majority of our businesses are run by people just like you and I. And just to give you even a more in-depth take on who becomes a sole proprietor, they could be your local bookkeeper or accountant. It could be construction, right? Building new homes or remodeling. Perhaps it's in-home health care or some other kind of social assistance, administrative support, real estate, finance, insurance, shop owners, and any kind of hunting, fishing, forestry, or agriculture. So let's check out a sole proprietorship. And remember, this is just when there's one owner of a business, and they're called a sole proprietor. There's no separate legal entity, and there are several major advantages to operating a business as a sole proprietorship. First of all, it's super easy to form. and it's low cost. It doesn't cost a lot of money to start a sole proprietorship. The owner has the right to make all management decisions concerning the business. The owner has the right to receive all of the profits. And, if they wanted to, the business could be easily transferred or sold. But there are some disadvantages as well. So creating the sole proprietorship is easy. There's no formalities, no federal or state government approval is required. And although there might be some local governments that needs business licensing, overall it's a pretty easy setup. Here's the biggest issue: unlimited personal liability. So just because you start a business, if you need money for any reason, you're going to be the one on a personal level that's going to have to sign for any kind of loans. If there's any wrongdoings committed by employees, you're going to be responsible. Any kind of contracts, you're going to be responsible. So the sole proprietor takes on all the risk of the loss of the business. You could lose your entire contribution. And depending on what you use to guarantee those funds, a home, any kind of accounts that you have in the bank, they may be used as collateral. And then if something goes wrong, you have to give them up. So since there is unlimited personal liability, creditors can recover claims against the business from the personal assets. There's no protection here. Zero, nada. And I can't emphasize this enough, how big of an issue this can be. There's also no diversity management, which, if you want to be a sole proprietor and you want to run things the way that you want to run them, maybe you don't care about diversity in management. But, a lot of times people don't know everything, right? So it's good to bounce ideas off of people. So it can be good to have some diversity. And a little side thing, you might have this inability to attract really high caliber employees. And why? Well, because maybe they can't be paid enough. Maybe there's no ability to provide benefits, right? So it can be hard to bring in the highest caliber people. And although it can be sold, there is some difficulty in transferring ownership. So what do you have to do if you want to start your own business? Well, there's a lot of resources out there, and I'm going to show you one of them here in a second. But in general, you may need to file a certificate of an assumed name. That's if you decide you want to go by something else. So if your name is Bob and you want it to be Bob's Bakery, you can have a DBA called Bob's Bakery. That doesn't mean that Bob's Bakery is now liable for everything just because they changed the name. Bob is still going to be liable. But some states require that certificates are filed if there's going to be an assumed name. In starting a sole proprietorship as well, because there's a business, you may have to obtain an ID number if you decide to go by a DBA. But in general, it'll be a social security number. If there's something that you're selling, you may have to get sales tax permits. And in some jurisdictions, whether it's a village, a county, a city, you may have to obtain a business license to operate. But it's going to be very individual as to where it is that you're located and where you're doing business. So what is this trade name thing anyways? Well, it's doing business as. just like we said about Bob. His name is Bob Smith, but he decides to do business as Bob's Bakery. I mean, he thought it sounded better than just saying Bob Smith on top of the shop, right? So it's a designation for business that's operating under what they call a trade name. And this fictitious business name statement, it may be the name and address of the applicant, and there might be a separate business. But it just helps the government to identify the business and the owner. And I wanted to show you, I know not all of you are in Ohio. There's people from Illinois and from all different places, but I wanted to show you real quick. It's here in Ohio, the registration of trade names or a fictitious name is in the Ohio Revised Code. So it shouldn't matter what state you're in, they'll be located in the codes. So I just want to show you. Hopefully it goes the way I want here. Patience. All right, so this is the Ohio Revised Code. And this is if somebody wants to, let's say Bob Smith wants to make it Bob's Bakery. He wants to register a trade name. And so in Ohio, they say a trade name means a name used in business or trade to designate the business of a user and asserts their right as a business. But just because you change your name doesn't mean that all of a sudden the liabilities of the company are the company's. In sole proprietorship, it's still that person, that individual that is going to have the liability. All right, speaking of liabilities and trade names, what happens when you go to pay taxes as a sole proprietor? Well, a sole proprietorship, because it's not a separate legal entity, they don't pay taxes at the business level. Instead, any earnings or losses from the sole proprietorship are reported on the owner's personal income tax filing. A sole proprietor has to file tax returns and pay taxes to state and federal governments. And for federal income purposes, a sole proprietor must prepare a personal income tax form 1040, as you've seen here. And if you file taxes, you know what this looks like. Now, there might be some loss, which could help on your personal taxes if there's a loss in business. But if there's income, just know that it may increase how much you pay in personal taxes. And this is generally reported on Schedule C of the Taxpayer Form 1040. All right, so now you've decided, I think that starting my own business sounds like a really good plan. I would say to you, go in with some caution. Stay excited, but again, a little reserved. And if you need any assistance, to me, the best place to go is to the Small Business Administration. There are people there that can help you fill out forms and set up your company. They help you and guide you in creating your small business. And I just want to show you quickly here. Nothing's quick when I do it. All right. So here, this is actually a PDF, but this is a Small Business Administration. And this one happens to be the Central and Southern Ohio edition. But you can go to your local small SBA office and ask for any kind of information. They can talk about media, logo setup, advertising, insurance, how to handle it if you need capital. There are funding programs What if you need some financing to help out your small business? And key, how to start a business. So it's pretty great that we have this availability for resources. All right, I'm not going to continue. I just wanted to show one more thing here. Bear with me. So again, this one is in Ohio, but there are SBAs in all the states, and there should be one local to you. So check it out. But it's great because they talk about the startup logistics, business licensing and zoning, things that maybe you don't think about. How to register your name, market research. Is there availability to see any kind of numbers about the business that you want to go into? If it's construction, is construction a good business to be in right now? So anyways, that is information from the SBA, and you can find that at www.sba.gov. So go ahead and click on it and see what they have to offer. All right, so that's about it for this video lecture. A little longer, obviously, than the one for chapter 25. But don't hesitate to reach out to me if you have any questions. Your homework this week is going to be based off of sole proprietorship and whether or not the person would be deemed liable. So make sure that you're checking out the information in the chapter. There's also a video in the discussion forum and obviously this video lecture as well. All right, guys, have a fabulous rest of your week, and I'll talk to you soon.